Welcome to this informational webinar about Wisconsin's Seal of Biliteracy program. While watching the recording, you may find it helpful to have the webinar slides open so that you can click on the links that are included throughout the presentation. The slides are posted on DPI's Seal of Biliteracy webpage. They can also be accessed via the QR code or the tiny URL on this slide.
Let us pause for a moment to recognize the First Nations, languages, cultures, and people for whom this land is home. Wisconsin is home to 12 sovereign Indigenous nations and 6 Indigenous American Indian languages. These heritage languages of Wisconsin are endangered and should be prioritized for revitalization. As we work to improve equity and access to the Seal of Biliteracy, it is important for all of us to partner with and learn from Wisconsin's American Indian nations and teachers of Ojibwe, Oneida, Ho-Chunk, Mohican, Menominee, and Potawatomi languages. DPI has formalized a partnership with the Minnesota Department of Education to expand access to Seal of Biliteracy assessments for Indigenous languages, starting with Ojibwe. We are building relationships and learning our way toward improved support of these critical languages. We have identified 4 goals for this informational webinar. We hope this content will improve awareness of the Seal of Biliteracy program and its value to students, families, schools, workplaces, and communities of Wisconsin. This webinar will encourage you to reflect on the importance of equity and access to the SEAL across languages and learner populations. We invite you to focus on equity as you plan, implement, and evaluate your local Seal of Biliteracy program in ways that center and celebrate the multilingual students and families we serve. We also want to encourage all school districts to register with DPI to bring this wonderful opportunity to students in your care. Finally, we hope this information will help your district plan and implement a successful Seal of Biliteracy program and prepare you to recognize your students for their workplace and world-ready language skills.
The Seal of Biliteracy is one way that districts can celebrate the linguistic assets of their students. The Seal of Biliteracy is a state level, industry recognized credential that is administered by local education agencies, such as public school districts. It recognizes high school students who have demonstrated proficiency in English and one or more additional languages, such as Spanish, Hmong, German, or Ojibwe. In addition to formally recognizing the language abilities of individual students, the goal of the Seal of Biliteracy is to raise awareness of the benefits of biliteracy and biculturalism more broadly, and to elevate the status of language learning that takes place in both schools and out of school settings. All 50 states and the District of Columbia now recognize students for their bilingualism and biliteracy through a Seal of Biliteracy program. For a brief overview of the Seal of Biliteracy, we encourage you to view DPI's promotional video about the Seal of Biliteracy that is linked on this slide. The video can be used to introduce and promote the Seal of Biliteracy to students, families, school and district administrators, teachers, and community partners.
Biliteracy? You may be asking yourself, what is biliteracy? Most of us understand the term bilingualism as the ability to communicate in 2 languages. Biliteracy builds upon that skill set to include equivalent reading and writing skills in 2 or more languages. The Wisconsin Seal of Biliteracy credential signals that a student is not only bilingual, but has also developed literacy in 2 languages and possesses the sociocultural competence to use those languages within and across diverse communities and cultures. Biliteracy is a superpower worthy of recognition. In Wisconsin, students who attain the seal are able to speak, listen, read, and write at a specified level of proficiency and evidence a meaningful degree of intercultural competence. This award serves as a talent marker for students who can interpret, co-create, and communicate communicate meaning across languages and cultures.
Now that we have a shared understanding of the three dimensions of biliteracy, let's explore why it is important to develop and formally recognize biliterate students. First and foremost, we know that language matters. For heritage language speakers, having the opportunity to develop and get recognition for their home language or languages affirms an important part of their identity. And for world language learners, learning a new language opens up new worlds. Beyond that, there is also a growing body of research on the benefits of bilingualism. The infographic linked on this slide, which was developed by the former Office of English Language Acquisition, identifies the sociocultural, cognitive, educational, and economic benefits of speaking more than one language. For example, being multilingual is associated with better academic outcomes and increased creativity. It can also increase employment opportunities and earning potential.
Students often ask, why should I pursue the seal? What's in it for me? There are many benefits to the seal of biliteracy. For multilingual learners, the seal celebrates a language that is part of a student's identity. Languages for them are bridges to communication with family and community. Many districts across the country award competency based credits to students who attain the seal in their home language. The seal is also a talent marker for college applications and may be used to advocate for college credit and or placement in appropriate advanced level language courses. The seal communicates language learning within our school communities and its value and encourages schools to provide access to extended pathways for learning that lead students to higher and higher levels of proficiency. The seal communicates to employers that a candidate is ready to use more than one language in the workplace, which often leads to higher pay. The seal is recognized across states, across the nation, and in many international contexts. The seal is an accomplishment with language, and the ability to use more than one language is a gift that keeps on giving throughout one's lifetime. The seal in Wisconsin is also an industry recognized credential within our state's academic career planning pathways. Employers value those who can communicate, collaborate, and compete with clients, coworkers, industry colleagues, and competitors.
At DPI, we see the Seal of Biliteracy program as an important tool for advancing equity. We believe that it is our collective responsibility to help Wisconsin students develop multilingual skills. All students should have access to an extended sequence of standards and proficiency based language education programs leading to bilingualism and biliteracy. We also believe that students who speak languages in addition to English at home should have opportunities to sustain and be recognized for their linguistic assets. Finally, we believe that American Indian and other heritage language speakers should have opportunities to reawaken and advance their heritage language and cultural identities. A state level, industry recognized credential, such as the Seal of Biliteracy, encourages districts and schools to develop their language education programs, including dual language, heritage language, and world language programs, thereby improving access to those services. The Seal of Biliteracy is also a way of formally recognizing the language skills of students who speak languages other than English outside of school, such as English learners, former English learners, and Indigenous students. At DPI, it is a priority for us to increase the number of districts registered to implement the Seal of Biliteracy. This will improve equity of access to the seal and the benefits it affords students across the state. Recognizing the benefits of multilingualism through the seal of biliteracy is important because we live in a linguistically diverse state. Approximately 160 languages are represented in our state schools. The most common language Wisconsin students report speaking are Spanish, Hmong, Burmese, Arabic, Karen languages, Swahili, Chinese, and Somali. Many, but not all, students who report speaking a language other than English at home are classified as English learners, meaning they are still in the process of developing proficiency in English. Currently, more than 50,000 English learners are enrolled in public schools across Wisconsin. Over 350 of the state's public school districts serve English learners, and in some districts, ELs make up a significant percentage of the student population. It's important to remember, however, that not all multilingual students are English learners. Some may be simultaneous bilinguals, or students who learned both English and another language at the same time and are fluent in both. Others may be heritage language speakers who have a family connection to a language other than English, but aren't as fluent in it as they are in English. Others may be English speakers who have learned another language in school language programs, such as a dual language immersion program or a world language program. In our state, there are also Indigenous students who have a connection to one of the Indigenous languages represented in our state, such as Ho Chunk or Ojibwe.
Wisconsin is committed to providing access to the benefits of language, intercultural, and global learning for all students. The Wisconsin Language Roadmap is our state's strategic framework for world language education. Business, government, education, and community leaders collaborated to define goals, recommendations, and action steps to improve world language learning in our state. Implementing the Seal of Biliteracy aligns well with Wisconsin Language Roadmap goals, including leadership, advocacy, and access to effective programs led by great teachers. Wisconsin DPI started collecting Seal of Biliteracy data from participating districts in the 2020-2021 school year. This data collection gives us information on trends and participation rates and includes the number of certificates and number of languages for which the seal was awarded. For the 2023-2024 school year, 644 students received this talent marking credential in English and 28 heritage and world languages. It is important to note that we do have a few students each year who qualify for the seal in 3 languages. Our goal is for all public high school students in Wisconsin to have access to this credential. We look forward to partnering with teachers, school leaders, and families toward this vision. Now that you know more about the Seal of Biliteracy, are you ready to bring this recognition to students in your district? In the rest of this webinar, we explain how districts can register for the seal and implement it in their schools.
This slide shows the process for Wisconsin school districts to follow to plan and register for and implement the Seal of Biliteracy. The first step is to access the Seal of Biliteracy guide and use it to develop a district plan. A district leadership team should also be created. Then districts should submit a Seal of Biliteracy registration form to DPI. Once that is done, districts complete a Seal of Biliteracy orientation module. Districts are also expected to send a representative to quarterly Seal of Biliteracy meetings, coordinator meetings, which are held virtually. Once districts have registered and completed orientation, they should begin implementing the program, including promoting the Seal of Biliteracy with students and families and scheduling language proficiency assessments. Finally, districts must report data for qualifying students to DPI using the Wise Home online application system and generate certificates signed by the State Superintendent of Public Instruction to give to students. The Seal of Biliteracy Planning, Registration, and Implementation Guide is posted on DPI's Seal of Biliteracy webpage, which is linked on this slide. Like the registration form, the guide is organized by the key components of a successful Seal of Biliteracy program. We will look more closely at the key components later in this webinar. The guide includes questions related to each of the key components that district planning and implementation teams can use to inform planning discussions. It also includes a list of common language proficiency assessments and qualifying scores. It is highly recommended that planning teams read through the entire guide prior to starting the registration process. Districts should also refer to the guide when completing the registration form and as they are implementing the Seal of Biliteracy program. Once districts have finished their planning conversations, they must complete and submit the Seal of Biliteracy registration form. The link to the Seal of Biliteracy registration form is also posted on DPI's Seal of Biliteracy webpage. On the form, districts will be asked to identify the person who will be the Seal of Biliteracy coordinator. This is the person who will oversee the program for the district and who will serve as a primary contact for DPI on communications related to the Seal of Biliteracy. The form also asks districts to read and acknowledge their commitment to implementing the key components of a successful Seal of Biliteracy program and to complete an assessment plan. The assessment plan consists of the languages for which the district anticipates awarding the seal and the corresponding assessments for those languages. In order to ensure that the program has the support of key district personnel, the form must be signed by the district administrator, the district assessment coordinator, and the Seal of Biliteracy coordinator. Once the form is signed, it is submitted to DPI and the registration process is complete. As mentioned earlier, the Seal of Biliteracy Guide and registration form are organized around the key components of successful Seal of Biliteracy programs. DPI has identified 9 key things that districts should have in place to ensure that a broad range of students qualify for the seal. These include a designated coordinator and program support team, effective school-based language learning pathways, family engagement in support of language learning at home and in the community, an intentional recruitment, promotion, and communication plan, an approved language proficiency assessment plan, a plan for developing and assessing sociocultural or intercultural competence, a process for documenting and reporting data for qualifying students, ways of celebrating student success, and a plan for program evaluation and continuous improvement. The Seal of Biliteracy Guide provides more information about each of these components. Over the next few slides, we will look more closely at several of the components, including language learning pathways, language proficiency assessments, and student celebration and recognition.
If we promote the Seal of Biliteracy and position it as a reward for sustained language learning, it then becomes our shared responsibility to ensure that our language programs are designed to grow proficiency over time. Building literacy, intercultural communication, and academic language skills requires many years of effective language learning. Standards and proficiency-based language programs support this skill development. Schools implementing the Seal of Biliteracy program are encouraged to engage in professional learning to build proficiency literacy for program leaders and classroom teachers who can then design programs, courses, and learning experiences designed to target proficiency development and be skilled at assessing progress toward higher and higher levels of proficiency over time. This slide includes a link to recommended performance benchmarks for K-12 world language education programs based on minutes of instruction. These outcomes are accelerated through dual language programs and slightly reduced for some less commonly taught non-alphabetic languages. Schools are encouraged to assess program level proficiency gains and plan how to measure and improve proficiency outcomes over time across languages and program models. There are a number of different school-based pathways that help students develop the biliteracy skills needed to qualify for the SEAL. This includes language education programs such as dual language, bilingual, ESL, heritage language, and American Indian language programs, in addition to world language programs. To learn more about language education programs that are geared toward English learner students, such as dual language, bilingual, and ESL education programs, please be sure to see DPI's Language Instruction Educational Programs crosswalk, which is linked on this slide. This crosswalk also includes information about heritage language and American Indian language programs. To learn more about World Language Education program options, please see the World Language Program Models document also linked on this slide. In addition to school-based pathways, students may develop bilingualism and biliteracy outside of school. For example, students may learn a language other than English at home or in community-based programs. Some students may learn a language through an online program or some other form of independent study. Students may attend immersion programs in the United States or abroad, or may spend time studying abroad. Finally, some students may develop their language proficiency via an early college credit program. As a part of the Seal of Biliteracy registration process, we encourage districts to consider how they will identify students who are exposed to a language other than English outside of school and recruit them for participation in the program. Although districts won't be able to provide direct language instruction to all of those students, they can encourage them to continue developing their language skills and help students and families find resources to support that development. Districts can also help students earn recognition for their language skills. State statutes in Wisconsin give school districts the power to enact local school board policies to award competency based credits to students based on evidence of proficiency in languages other than English. Districts are also encouraged to add value to the seal for multilingual learners in this way and to include the seal on academic transcripts for all learners for college admissions or job application purposes. As all 50 states grow their Seal of Biliteracy programs, there is now a shared need for implementation resources. Please refer to the National Seal of Biliteracy Toolkit for resources specifically designed for students, teachers, families, employers, and post-secondary audiences. The toolkit includes resources districts can use to support school-based and non-school-based language learning, including videos and infographics in many languages that are designed to help students, families, and teachers understand the language proficiency levels needed to earn the seal. It is also including information about strategies that can be implemented in and out of school to support the development of language proficiency.
Students qualify for the Seal of Biliteracy by demonstrating competency in three areas. The first area is proficiency in English across the four skill domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The second is proficiency in a partner language or a language other than English, such as Spanish, Hmong, or Ojibwe. Proficiency in the partner language is also assessed in all four skill domains. The third area is sociocultural competence, which means demonstrating the ability to use the partner language in socioculturally competent ways or to engage in intercultural communication. To earn the seal of biliteracy, students must meet the following criteria in each of the three competency areas. Students must meet or exceed intermediate high language proficiency on a formal DPI approved assessment in the language other than English for which they are qualifying. Candidates must also evidence equivalent language skills in English on a standardized assessment such as the Access for ELLs test, the ACT, or assessments aligned with the ACTFL proficiency guidelines such as APPLE and STAMP. Districts have more latitude in determining how students will demonstrate sociocultural competence. The intercultural communication standard within Standards for World Languages may be used to facilitate and assess this learning within world language classes or in other classes. Districts may also design local experiences and assessments of this important dimension of what it means to be truly biliterate and bicultural.
It is the responsibility of districts to identify and schedule assessments for the languages in which students will be earning the seal of biliteracy. This slide shows some of the most common assessments that are used by districts to assess language proficiency. Districts should use the Global Seal of Biliteracy Test Finder, which is linked on this slide, to identify assessments in languages spoken by their students. For home languages not taught in our schools, alternative assessments and approaches may be required. Partnerships will empower this work. DPI is currently partnering with the Minnesota Department of Education to provide access to proficiency assessments in languages that are not commonly taught in schools, including Hmong, Ojibwe, Somali, Ukrainian, and several other home languages of students in our states. If you are unable to find an assessment in a particular language, please contact DPI for support.
As noted earlier, an important component of the Seal of Biliteracy program is recognizing and celebrating student success. All students in approved districts who qualify for the seal receive a digital certificate from DPI that is signed by the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Districts are also encouraged to determine other ways of recognizing students, such as including the seal of biliteracy on official transcripts, distributing pins or medals to students, giving students special graduation cords to wear, or recognizing them during a senior awards presentation. One exciting development is that some districts are supporting students in getting recognition from universities. This has resulted in students getting course credit based on their language proficiency level, as documented by the Seal of Biliteracy.
There also exists an alternative to Wisconsin's Seal of Biliteracy program for students who may be in districts not yet registered to implement the seal. The Global Seal of Biliteracy program began when most states did not yet have a state adopted seal of biliteracy. The Global Seal of Biliteracy program is an option for students in Wisconsin in districts not yet registered to implement the seal, and also for students who are not yet qualified to attain the Wisconsin credential at the required proficiency level of intermediate high. There is an assessment and option within the Global Seal of Biliteracy for students who can qualify at intermediate mid, a sub-level lower. Please visit their website to learn more. We do hope more Wisconsin school districts will register to implement our state seal, but we're also pleased that students have access to this alternative if needed.
We asked two current Seal of Biliteracy coordinators to share their advice for new districts and to describe the impact the program has had on their districts. Sol Maris Gonzalez is the World Languages and Immersion Curriculum Specialist for Milwaukee Public Schools and the Seal of Biliteracy Coordinator for the district. MPS began implementing the Seal of Biliteracy program during the 2019-2020 school year. Mandy Search Morstad is the Director of Bilingual Services for the Middleton Cross Plains Area School District. In that capacity, she oversees the Seal of Biliteracy program for her district. The 2022-2023 school year was the first year that Middleton Cross Plains participated in the Seal of Biliteracy program. We asked Sol and Mandy what advice they had for districts that were considering registering for the Seal of Biliteracy. And here is what they said. They said that it is important for new districts to plan ahead for a September launch, to consider their district context and the existing programs in the district that can support the Seal of Biliteracy and support students in earning the Seal of Biliteracy. They advised forming a planning and implementation team, and as part of that, consulting district language learning experts, such as world language teachers, bilingual teachers, and ESL teachers. They also recommended involving district and school leaders, such as principals of schools where world language and bilingual and ESL programs are located, and the district administrators who oversee world language and dual language and bilingual and ESL education. They also suggested using the input that is collected from the language learning experts and the district and school leaders and the planning team to guide planning. They advise sharing the workload. There is a lot to do when you're implementing the Seal of Biliteracy program, and it is more than just one person can do on their own. So they recommended sharing the workload across members of the planning and implementation team. They also recommended keeping the superintendent and school board informed so that they know what's going on and can be fully in support of the program. And finally, they recommended making sure that you are being inclusive of students from all language backgrounds and to think creatively to make sure that all students have access to the seal, even if they speak a language that is not taught in world language classes or is a less commonly spoken language in your district or in the state. We also asked Sol and Mandy to tell us about the impact the Seal of Biliteracy program has had on their district's language education programs and the language learners those programs serve. Here is what Sol told us about the impact of the Seal of Biliteracy on students in MPS. At our immersion schools, the majority of our students who continue on with the immersion program are able to graduate with the Seal of Biliteracy with flying colors. We are talking about students who are English speakers and are able to speak another language at the end of their high school career. The importance of languages has grown so much in our district.
Here is what Bandy said about the impact she hopes the Seal of Biliteracy will have on students in the Middleton Cross Plains Area School District. We hope the Seal of Biliteracy will encourage students to stay on their dual language and/or world language pathways through graduation, and that it will also help our students who have home languages feel seen and know that their home languages have tremendous value. Researchers and authors Kristen Davin and Amy Heinecke recently published a helpful guide. It's a how-to guide for Seal of Biliteracy program implementation. Districts are encouraged to review this valuable resource as you define your local purpose, approach, and community of support for Seal of Biliteracy success within your school community. The links on this slide lead to state and national Seal of Biliteracy program information and planning resources that include Wisconsin ESL, bilingual, and world language program models through which districts support language learning to diverse language learners. Visit the DPI Seal of Biliteracy webpage to access the planning guide and registration form. The links on this slide lead to helpful resources focused on growing and assessing language proficiency. We encourage ESL, bilingual, world language, heritage, and indigenous language educators to collaborate on leadership for language learning and to bring the Seal of Biliteracy to all language learners in your collective care. Thank you for taking time to learn more about Wisconsin's Seal of Biliteracy program. Please contact us at DPI for support to make the most of this opportunity within your school community.